All right, guys. So we have some woke sports news from the NFL today. And quite honestly, guys, I have not talked about sports in a long time. And the reason is because there really hasn't been any woke sports news. Now, with the NFL specifically, if you guys remember back during week 1 of the anthem, they had the black national anthem and the regular national anthem, and a lot of controversy that a lot of patriots just did not like, which caused them to roll back on it and try to play it a little bit more safe, not even showing the national anthems on TV during the game. So part of the reason why we really haven't had any news is because the NFL is trying to avoid controversy, right? And they're trying to get their viewership back. Now, I'm not sure if the ratings have actually rebounded, but I do think that they're still down from last year. But, that could be because of a variety of different factors, like the virus and, people paying attention to politics and the election, just not really caring about sports. And I think that's one of the things that is a byproduct of the virus, is that people have learned to live without sports. But like I said, today we have some woke NFL news that I want to discuss with you guys because I think this is interesting. But before we get into that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching a Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys. So today, like I said, we got some woke NFL news as owners have finalized a 10-month discussion aimed at boosting the likelihood that teams will seek out, consider, and hire minority coaching and executive candidates. They approved a resolution to reward teams with draft picks if one of their minority coaches or personnel people is hired to be a head coach or general manager. In the spring, they briefly considered a plan that reward teams that made the hires. Ultimately, they decided to incentivize an expansion of the candidate pool. Moving forward, teams will receive two third-round compensatory draft picks if someone from their organization is hired or promoted to a head coaching or general manager job. Entering the 2020 season, the NFL had four minority head coaches and 2 minority general managers. Quote, that just complements part of the overall collection of things that we're doing, NFL Vice President of Football Operations Troy Vincent said. Quote, to try to increase mobility among in particular black coaches and females as well in the coach and GM front. I'm looking forward to seeing what the offseason has to bring in the hiring cycle. That's a damn shame, man. Why is it that these people are obsessed with having women coach in the NFL? I mean, guys, if any of you guys ever play football, I played high school football. I'm not going to sit here and act like I was a superstar, but I know that on the football field, on the practice field, that is not a place for women. The things that are said, the things that are talked about in the locker room, it's just not a place for women, right? It's not exactly a professional environment the way they want to set it up in corporate America, where I do believe that women deserve equal right. They deserve equal pay. They do have equal pay. The gender wage gap is a myth, by the way, just in case you guys didn't know. And they also deserve opportunities. But I draw the line when it comes to professional sports. We have to just have something that's just for men, just for guys, okay? Right? I already think it's weird that they have female reporters in the locker room while dudes are walking around in towels swinging their stick. I think that's weird already. Maybe a woman general manager. But coaches, come on, man. Sometimes these lefties don't realize that on the social aspect of things, you can go a little bit too far, where we end up in topsy-turvy world that is really just uncomfortable for most Americans, because it goes against what we traditionally understand in terms of the gender roles that we have in society, right? But, that's my take on the whole women thing. I hope I don't sound like a sexist. Now, in reference to the black coaches, I think that this is unnecessary. And the reason why it's unnecessary is because I think that the NFL is trying to get ahead of something that really should be a natural process. We've seen that in a capitalistic society, specifically in sports, right, where teams share revenue, where the incentive is to win. The incentive is to have the best talent on your team. Now, some owners can just really sit on their ass and not do shit because of the revenue sharing. But the teams that do win and that win consistently sell more team merchandise. Their fan base grows. They get more popularity. And ultimately, the value of the team grows, right? So, Dallas Cowboys, for example, are a very valuable team. The New England Patriots are a very valuable team. The LA Lakers are a very valuable team. Boston Celtics. Those historic teams that generally win. Now, I don't know about the Cowboys this year, but the teams that generally win consistently are going to be valued more, right? The incentive is already there to hire the best candidates and the best talent to make the team win, okay? That's why we have a league that is 70% black, right? Because somebody was smart enough to figure out, well, if you exclude black players from playing, then you're excluding a talent pool that is potentially better than the non-black talent pool. And I hope that nobody thinks that what I said is racist. I'm just saying these are the facts. This is why the league is 70% black. Black players just tend to be more athletic. And again, this is why the league is the way it is, right? Otherwise, some other ethnic group would be the majority, right? So teams have figured that out. And if you're a team that discriminates against, a better candidate, then ultimately you're going to get left behind. We've seen what happens with black quarterbacks. At first, the thing was, oh, there's no black quarterbacks, there's no black quarterbacks. But as the game evolved, we now have more black quarterbacks like, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the best quarterback in the NFL right now is Patrick Mahomes, who's black. And that happened not because it was forced. It's because somebody was smart enough to realize that, okay, you get a black quarterback who can run, that puts more pressure on the defense and it makes it harder to defend and you can do more with your offense. Somebody was smart enough to figure that out. Why? Because they're incentivized to win. They're incentivized to win because they can make more money. Teams' values goes up. You get more fans. The sport is more exciting. It makes the sport better. And I believe this concept to be true even on the head coaching level. I mean, a lot of people in sports talking heads are complaining about the NFL is not hiring enough black head coaches or minority head coaches. And the reason why this became such a big deal is because the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, did not get a job this offseason after basically coordinating the best offense we've probably seen since Peyton Manning in 2013 with the Broncos and coaching the best quarterback in the NFL right now, Patrick Mahomes, to a Super Bowl. So the question is that how did this excellent coach, Eric Bieniemy, who happens to be black, not get a job this offseason as a head coach when he's clearly very qualified and he's got the approval from a legendary head coach in Andy Reid? So a lot of people's asking question marks, and what the woke media does, the first thing they do is throw out the racism card. Now, my rebuttal to this is this. We don't know why Eric Bieniemy didn't get hired. We don't know what his interviews was like. We don't know what he said. We don't know, if the teams that actually interviewed him and considered hiring him, if they felt like he was the right fit from a personality standpoint, from a plan standpoint, from an organization standpoint. We don't have the details in terms of why he did not get hired. Okay, so to just assume it was because of his race, I think it's wrong. Now, I understand the argument because you got retreads like Mike McCarthy with the Dallas Cowboys who's doing terrible right now. And, people like, Matt Rule who had no experience whatsoever in the NFL getting a head coaching job. And a lot of people feel like Eric Bieniemy was being looked over. And the only explanation they can come up with is that he's black. Now, I do think that Eric Bieniemy is a superior head coaching candidate. However, I believe in the process. There's no doubt in my mind that Eric Bieniemy is going to get a head coaching job this offseason. Because there's another season under his belt, and it's another season with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're 8-1. Again, their offense is legendary. Patrick Mahomes is performing at an all-time level, okay? And because of that, people are going to realize, oh, snap, like this dude is the real deal. I need to pick him up and snatch him up and take a chance on him before somebody smarter than me goes and does that. It might not happen when you want it, but eventually it will happen. And ultimately, when these head coaches become head coaches, it is up to them to win. They need to win. That is how you get more black head coaches in the NFL. But the thing is that I think that there's a fundamental problem with people thinking that because the league is 70% black, by definition, you need, what, 70% of the coaches to be black? Or even, you know, a proportional amount to the population? That's not necessarily how things work. And ultimately, at the end of the day, for me, you don't need resolutions like this to incentivize teams to grow black coaches. Why do you need that? The players themselves should want to be coaches and should want to stay a part of the league. And, you know, if they're smart and, you know, they understand the plays, they understand the game, and they want to coach, they can coach. If they want to become general managers and, you know, be in the office, the front office, they should develop good relationships. And then once they leave the league, go to business school, go get an MBA. Because these players was in the NFL, they can get into a lot of elite business schools just from the fact that they played in the NFL and just their connections that they have. It happens all the time. And then they can go and rejoin a club in the front office after they get educated in business. These are things that are entirely possible without having to implement basically affirmative action for black coaches in the NFL. Now, again, I don't think that this rule is as bad as rewarding teams who hire coaches directly. You're really rewarding the teams that choose to hire lower level coaches and that grow their coaches to become head coaches. That's who you're really rewarding. But at the same time, I do think what it does is that it just creates that stigma of you getting a job because a team is trying to get draft picks. I mean, you getting 2 third-round draft picks. You getting potentially 2 starters. 2 starters. If somebody from your staff who's black gets a head coaching job, you can get potentially 2 starters in the draft. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. And I just think that it just creates an incentive that other people may find unfair, and it just really plays on that stigma of, you know, black people being given everything. And, you know, in a league where the players are 70% black, do you really need that? Really? When everybody in the league that's basically playing as a millionaire for the most part? I mean, is this something that you really, really, really need? When the players have direct access to the coaches, they have they build relationships with the teams, they got direct access to the owners. It's up to them to build that relationship and to want to become coaches. If enough players want to become coaches and enough of them are qualified, you're going to see more black coaches. If anything, the talent pool for the coaches should be the players. That they have a huge talent pool already. You don't need to increase it. It's right there. If let's say, for example, 50% of players that retired wanted to be coaches, you got your talent pool right there. I mean, who's more qualified than those guys who played? I mean, it's a lot easier for a player to have access to that than some random white person who grew up studying coaching and has to develop all his connections through, you know, going to school and going through that whole process and never having played football or whatever. It's a lot easier for a player, a black player, to become a coach than it is, again, for some random white person off the street to become a coach. Now, again, like any other business, the NFL does have nepotism where you have, you know, coaching dynasties, right? Families that, you know, like the Shanahans, you know, even Bill Belichick has his son coaching on his team. I get it, right? And there are a lot of NFL coaches that are just bad. But at the same time, I think that this is a process that was going to naturally happen, and they didn't really need to force this because the woke media told them to do it. Just because the woke media pressures you to do something, they feel like you need to fix this problem now, doesn't mean you have to do it. The process was going to happen. It was going to happen. It was happening in the same way that the black quarterback process happened. You know, I really don't agree with it. So the NFL trying to be more woke, trying to out woke the next league, try to prove that they're not racist, even though, again, they've created more black millionaires than any institution I can think of off the top of my head. So I don't understand how the NFL can be racist. But regardless of that, it is what it is. I thought this was interesting. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.